particularly where there's a lot of intersection across functions and business units and decision makers and so on. I think that is going more slowly. My opinion on why that's happening is, you know, you still need people to collaborate, to agree, and to put a plan in place to achieve a common objective, if
Yeah.
that's automating or using AI or whatever the case may be. And so, you've sort of got, the technology advances on this curve. And you've got the people advances down here, and that gap is widening. I was listening to it's an old podcast now, probably with the guest speakers, probably a year old, but they were describing, when you get your iPhone release updates. And
Yeah.
they're coming with more frequency now, and you get a little
Hmm.
snapshot of what the
Hmm.
fixes are with the last one. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar. A lot of people didn't like it. It changed the visuals, it changed the display, it moved things around. A lot of people I talked to were like, I want to go back to the old version, right?
Hmm.
Well, imagine a scenario where you have 100 new releases for your iPhone every day.
Hmm.
People are struggling to keep up with ones that come, once a month or, once every 6 weeks. And
Hmm.
so that's that cognitive dissonance with being able to keep up. So that is happening with AI across the board. And so not only are people each individually trying to figure out what this means for them, for their teams, for their work, but
Yeah.
we still have the change management requirements of collaboration, of consensus, of prioritization, and of putting in a solid plan to
Yeah.
actually deliver something.
Yeah.
So right now, the humans are the long pole in the tent. AI has the promise of, it's going to remove all of the grunt work, all of the admin, all of the stuff that people really don't like to do so they can focus, so they can think, so they
Hmm.
can synthesize ideas and innovate. Well, the reality is people are spending more time in their email applications, in their messaging applications, and this reflects my own experience. Now I
Hmm.
can just push more admin
Hmm.
through the pipe, but I
Right.
haven't actually changed my own behavior. And
Mm.
this is key. People are going to have to decide to spend their time differently. If it's really truly to focus and innovate and create new solutions, you've got to change your calendar and where you're spending your time and how you're doing that.
Right.
If you just allow AI to have you push more tasks through the pipeline, again, you're
Hmm.
sub-optimizing what you're going to get out of it.
Everyone, welcome to this edition of the High Human First AI podcast, where I speak with enterprise leaders on what tangible outcomes they are seeing with AI. We have with us very special guest today, Julie Stone. Julie is the Chief Learning Officer and the Group Vice President at TTEC. TTEC obviously is the global leader in contact centers and customer experience with over 50,000 employees in 24 countries. So Julie's kind of spearheading the transformation as this workforce steps into the AI first era. Julie also is on the board of the Skillsoft Executive Advisory Committee, and she's also a member of the GSV Workforce Insights panel. Hello, everyone. To begin with, Julie, just like something timely which is happening in the markets, which is given that the public markets are just broadly punishing SaaS companies right now, very specific to L&D organizations, it'd be very helpful to understand how are you thinking about build versus buy decisions? Has that changed in the last 18 months?
Yeah, it absolutely has changed. And there are a couple of key points that I would mention. The first is the speed with innovation from all of the tech providers is just on such an accelerated path that it becomes very difficult for buyers to assess and commit to making a software decision, making a platform decision. And so certainly I think, you'll find that leaders are shortening contract periods. So instead of signing for 3 years, maybe it's for a 2-year contract because it's just hard to know what the landscape is going to look like. I would say there's also a lot of consolidation. So you see tech providers who were, in a primary niche are really expanding their remit to be more end to end. So as it relates to employee development, you're finding a lot of providers who aren't only learning providers. That might be learning content provider or an LMS platform or an LXP platform, but now they're stepping into coaching. They're bringing AI coaches. They might be stepping into knowledge management or real-time support with knowledge agents, and also looking at ongoing, performance and measuring real proficiency. And so with all that consolidation, it's a much more complex decision that buyers have facing them. The other point that I would make is, as more and more teams, functions start to build and deploy and manage their own agents, they're becoming, the more mature they get, it's almost like running a little software operation of your own. So this is
Hmm.
something that's happened within my organization.
Hmm.
The last time that we talked about our Wizard Suite, which has continued to evolve, and we continue to use it more and more. This is our AI Wizard Suite. And, we have realized that we need to bring into our function software management practices. So as I have, I have new releases of the wizard. I have 80 plus people I need to train to use that wizard. I need release notes. I
Hmm.
need, release management. I
Hmm.
need to kind of wall off my current release from the innovation, the bug fixes, what's going on. And so that's been a really interesting development since we last spoke, because, there's a lot of talk about AI is going to change the work that people do.
Yeah.
And that's true. And a lot of the new work people call out are like prompt engineers or, AI agent management or what have you. But for me, it's also taking work into my function that has existed, but that hasn't traditionally been done by L&D. So with
Mm.
software, release management as the example.
Interesting. You make some really good points. I want to unpack a few of these things. One is the trend of software providers wanting to become more end to end. Why do you think that's happening?
I think it's two things. On the one
Hmm.
hand, you have providers or buyers who are wanting to connect solutions end to end.
Hmm.
It's they're not wanting to have to stitch together multiple providers that adds complexity to your
Yeah.
solution.
Hmm.
Even if you just think about something like companies who are most companies are somewhere on the trajectory of moving to a skills-based talent ecosystem. Well, in order to get the full benefit from doing that, you have to have a connected tech stack and connected employee experience. And so that would be from, kind of the L&D, buyer perspective. From the provider perspective, I think first of all, with that kind of evolving demand, you can't stay. within a particular niche, you have to look at how you expand that, and that also expands your market presence and the market opportunity. If you think about content providers, like that is very quickly becoming ubiquitous. And
Hmm.
so content providers have to think about what other value are they going to bring to their clients that goes
Hmm.
beyond content that you can find literally anywhere now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then the second question was, pre-AI, you already had kind of a fabric of software tools that you're using. And then now you have a layer of AI tools or agents also. How are they interoperating, Julie? Are these layered on top of your existing tools? Are you using both together? Or are the AI agents kind of getting data from your current software tools? What is happening right now in your world?
Within my L&D organization, I'll speak first about our wizards.
Hmm.
So when we were speaking about 8 months ago, we had a curriculum wizard and a coaching wizard that we had launched and we were using. We had a discovery wizard on the way that we were developing but hadn't started to use yet. Fast forward to where we are today, those three wizards are being used extensively, and we've integrated them into one workflow, which we
Hmm.
didn't have before. So you start with the coaching wizard to identify based on the work to be done for any given client,
Hmm.
what is the job, what does success look like? So based on that, what skills and behaviors do we need to train on?
Hmm.
Then we use the Discovery Wizard to look at existing curricula to say, okay, based on what already exists, where are the gaps? How do we improve upon it? And improve using learning science principles. And
Hmm.
then with that output, we use the Curriculum Wizard, which builds the curriculum. So
Hmm.
we hadn't even really conceived of that flow when we were speaking 8 months ago. So that is
Hmm.
one example of how the AI bots are fully integrated.
Hmm.
There are certainly, though, many, many examples where we are building automation or agents that are sitting within existing workflows.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think that those workflows are going to see the same type of evolution that the wizards did. You're going to start with picking a piece of work in an existing human workflow and say, this is a pain point. This can be faster, better, more accurate, whatever the case is. And
Hmm.
so that's the starting point is you embed it into something existing. But then as you gain experience, you start to see okay, actually, we have opportunities to redesign this workflow. If we
Hmm.
bring AI in more, if we restructure it, we can actually get even better results. In my experience, though, you start with what's familiar and then you drive for that redesign of your workflows as you get experience.
Okay. And this is the same, the Wizard Suite, the same product that won the Stevie Gold Awards,
It
right?
is. It is indeed.
Great. So, I mean, first, congratulations on that. And second,
Thank you.
what aspects of it do you think kind of helped the Wizard win the Stevie Gold Awards?
To my knowledge, no one else is doing this yet.
Mm.
No one else is using AI for the entire instructional design workflow.
Hmm.
It's being used to develop elements of a curriculum, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's video or it's, various different simulations where somebody can practice. We spoke about that the last time we were together, but nobody's actually connected the full end to end. And, our experience doing that has given us real tangible ROI,
Hmm.
not only from an efficiency standpoint,
Hmm.
but also from a quality standpoint. And that's the piece that's really, really important. Like, yes, AI is going to speed everything up, but the term that is proliferating now is work slop. that's
Mm.
great. AI, gave me a lot of output, but it's actually not very usable or it
Yeah.
sacrificed on quality.
Hmm.
So ours didn't do that. And there's a lot of kind of discussion and rhetoric out there right now, and even just questioning, is anybody actually getting value from AI? Where are the true ROI examples? And that's where we have true data. And my answer is yes, absolutely. There is ROI, but it's a hard path to get there. So I think that's why we got recognized and we're not sitting on that success.
Hmm.
It tomorrow it feels like, lots of providers will have caught up. So we're continuing to iterate and innovate on how the Wizard Suite evolves.
Okay. And you have a human in the loop uh, design built into the
Yeah.
suite, right? How do you think of this spectrum or continuum from, you know, where the AI is fully autonomous versus, human stepping in provides validation and trust and accuracy and things like that?
For us right now, absolutely essential.
Hmm.
And we could not remove the human from the loop.
Hmm.
And the biggest reason that I would say, and you mentioned it, it's that validation, it's the understanding of context.
Hmm.
So AI doesn't know context. AI doesn't have lived context
Yeah.
with a particular client, a particular type of work. And
Yeah.
and so it requires the human to be doing validation and quality checks along the way to make sure that that context is fully represented. Otherwise, that's where work slop comes into play. You get
Yeah.
something that just doesn't fit that particular use case, requirement, and context. So, my, head of learning science, innovation, and tech, he'll say that his vision is we get to a point where with the wizards, we push a button and it just runs all three wizards and, you're done. I don't know if we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Right now, we absolutely require people. And I think even with the one button, you're still going to want to have a human that is reviewing everything for context.
Makes sense. And one of the things you mentioned earlier was what you traditionally used to do in the learning org and expanding to include things like software releases and stuff like that. Could you maybe just help us understand how is that being achieved? Meaning, are you having your own developers build stuff, or are you working with external vendors to build things? How is that happening?
Yeah, I mean, so we're upskilling ourselves.
Hmm.
We're leveraging existing best practices.
Hmm.
We've got the same core group that has been developing our wizards internally, but it's
Yeah.
just this realization that comes that says, I've got to train 80 people to use these wizards in this new way, in this new
Hmm.
workflow, as they with any piece of software, as they experience a bug, we need to have a process to track that bug in the bug fix. If there's a new feature or functionality that they want, we've got to track that and prioritize it for development. We have to have a way to communicate when bugs have been fixed. We have to have a way to test new feature functionality. And
Hmm.
so it's been uh, a level of understanding that has evolved as the wizards have matured to say
Hmm.
we need to go leverage software release practices
Yeah.
and start structuring ourselves in that way. But it's the same people. We're upskilling ourselves and we're bringing in new practices and SOPs so that we
Yeah.
can do that.
Nice. And at TTEC, when you look at your entire scaling portfolio, what would you say are your top one or two skills that you're training the team on? And how do you think of that in terms of just pure skilling versus uh, in the flow of work recommendations based on what they're doing in the moment? what does the journey look like from pure teaching to in the flow of work recommendations, where the line between working and learning kind of becomes very gray?
We've had every year a pretty robust list of upskilling priorities. And we've
Hmm.
had ones at the global level and ones that are more role specific. So if I speak about our instructional designer, we are upskilling that role to learning experience designer, and we created a whole new job profile
Hmm.
around different competencies and different knowledge and skills. So we're going to complete having everybody be fully certified in the next couple of months. And that requires discrete, separate learning experiences and
Yeah.
practical application to help them
Hmm.
assess proficiency as they're using the new tool. So that piece of it's a significant enough change that it is not happening within the flow of work. But
Hmm.
what I envision will be something that we are doing in the flow of work is, like I was just saying, as we have bug fixes with the wizards, as we have new feature functionality, you don't need to go to a separate training on that. You need communication. You might need a quick little demo that just says, "Hey, check this out," before you go use it the
Yeah.
next time. And get yourself familiar with it. So that's a big focus for us right
Hmm.
now. I would say the other big focus is it's systems thinking and business
Hmm.
acumen.
Mm.
Because in order to drive the most value for the
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
you have to be thinking about building true skills proficiency that is measurable, quantifiable. That happens outside of discrete training classes, e-learning, and events. And if you're going to do that, you have to really have end-to-end systems thinking, and you have to understand the business. And that's something that I would say across most companies traditionally has been left to finance, sales, account management. It's not a normal priority area for a lot of centers of excellence or support functions
Hmm.
like L&D. And so it's a new area to help people start with, first of all, what's the job profile we're hiring? What
Yeah.
did those people come in with? How
Hmm.
do we build on that in the most efficient and high quality way from a learner experience standpoint? And then as they move into, their day jobs, how do we continue to support that growth and that proficiency attainment? How do we measure it? And then how do we connect that to whatever business outcomes are important to that business? That's pretty
Hmm.
new for folks.
I see. And last time when we spoke 8 months back, right, we were speaking about AI's potential impact on the instruction design role, on what's going to happen to the traditional authoring platforms when
Yeah.
AI can start generating pretty dynamic content. Has it started happening yet, or do you think AI is still ways off from becoming kind of the default instruction design authoring tool?
Oh, it's here.
It's
It's
yeah. Okay.
absolutely here.
Yeah.
My teams are using AI first
Hmm.
in every instance.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I think we might have touched on, we did.
Hmm.
We talked a little bit about Khan Academy and the true adaptive
Hmm.
learning, which is
Yeah.
in the moment. That's
Hmm.
that's the next step towards the
Hmm.
horizon, which we are hoping to run a pilot on this year, which is having
Hmm.
content that actually isn't even created yet. It's
Hmm.
created on the fly for you as you are going through your own learning experience based
Hmm.
on your responses, based on your interests, and based on your speed with picking up on the knowledge and concepts that are being presented to you. So
Yeah.
that is a big step past personalized to
Hmm.
true adaptive.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you, are we overestimating enterprise adoption of AI? But just listening to you speak, it doesn't seem like we're probably underestimating it, given the pace at which you and your team are adopting it. Is that right? I mean,
Um, yes and no.
okay.
I've got a very particular use
Mm,
case, and we've
yeah.
been able to advance it
Mm,
pretty significantly. Um, but when you look at AI adoption across companies, across functions, um, particularly where there's a lot of intersection across functions and business units and decision makers and so on. I think that is going more slowly.
mhm.
And my opinion on why that's happening is, you know, you still need people to collaborate, to agree, and to put a plan in place to achieve a common objective, if
Yeah.
that's automating or using AI or whatever the case may be. And so, you've sort of got, the technology advances on this curve, and you've got the people advances down here, and that gap is widening. I was listening to it's an old podcast now, probably with the guest speakers, probably a year old, but they were describing, when you get your iPhone release updates. And
Yeah.
they're coming with more frequency now, and you get a little
Hmm.
snapshot of what the
Hmm.
fixes are with the last one. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar. A lot of people didn't like it. It changed the visuals, it changed the display, it moved things around. A lot of people I talk to were like, I want to go back to the old version, right?
Hmm.
Well, imagine a scenario where you have 100 new releases for your iPhone every day. We're
Hmm.
struggling, people are struggling to keep up with ones that come, once a month or, once every 6 weeks. And
Hmm.
so that's that cognitive dissonance with being able to keep up. So that is happening with AI across the board. And so not only are people each individually trying to figure out what this means for them, for their teams, for their work, but
Yeah.
we still have the change management requirements of collaboration, of consensus, of prioritization, and of putting in a solid plan to
Yeah.
actually deliver something.
Yeah.
So right now, the humans are the long pole in the tent. We are the ones that need to figure out how to speed up our process so that we can take faster advantage of the technology.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up that point because it literally goes to my next question, which is when I talk to enterprise leaders, I constantly hear with AI adoption, the technology is really not much of the problem. It's really the humans, the mindset, the changing the workflows, and specifically what you mentioned, change management. Uh, could you just you mean for any of these, tools that you're developing or you're purchasing and you're rolling it out, could you help us understand when you say change management, what is kind of baked into that? How does that, I mean, what percentage of AI adoption is change management other than building the tool? And what does that look like in day to day when you're executing on that?
If in order to achieve high adoption, change management
Yeah.
is everything.
Wow.
Because, and when I say that, what I mean is, the having the foresight to
Hmm.
think through um, what, first of all, what outcome are you seeking? What do you want um, success to look like with
Hmm.
people using AI in their roles? That's the starting point, is what is the outcome? I don't think very many leadership teams, companies are there yet. They're at
Hmm.
this point of experimentation and ideation, and that is not a bad thing. They're
Hmm.
equipping their employees with tools, might be Copilot, might be Chat GPT, it might be Claude, and they're saying just go experiment, play with it, see what you can do with it. That's a great first step. But if you want to go beyond that, you need to have a vision of what the outcomes are going to look like. So, for example, do you only expect people to get faster? Because that's one outcome, but I think most people would agree you've sub-optimized the results that you can get. Do you
Hmm.
want something qualitatively different?
Hmm.
Are you looking to use it to drive higher sales? Are you changing your value proposition? What does good look like? And then working backwards from that, how does the work change for people? So, yes, we want them to be faster. Well, what are they doing with the rest of their time? I don't know if you saw it. Through LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, they shared a study that had been done. I forget the reference, but they basically looked at workplace professionals who were using AI and where they were spending their time. And it's fascinating, right? Because AI has the promise of, it's going to remove all of the grunt work, all of the admin, all of the stuff that people really don't like to do so they can focus, so they can think, so they
Hmm.
can synthesize ideas and innovate. Um, well, the reality is people are spending more time in their email applications, in their messaging applications, and this reflects my own experience. Now I
Hmm.
can just push more admin
Hmm.
through the pipe, but I
Right.
haven't actually changed my own behavior. And
Mm.
this is key. People are going to have to decide to spend their time differently. If it's really truly to focus and innovate and create new solutions, you've got to change your calendar and where you're spending your time and how you're doing that.
Right.
If you just allow AI to have you push more tasks through the pipeline, again, you're
Hmm.
sub-optimizing what you're going to get out of it. And and so that goes back to the change management question. Well, what does good look like? If it's just pushing more stuff through the pipeline at the task level, okay, but I don't think you're going to get the full value out of it. So you need to kind of think through, what does good look like? And therefore, what do I need to train people on? And what new skills do I need to help them develop in? And how do we change the workflow? Um, and I don't think people have, made that full connection yet. I hope that
Yeah.
makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And those are some fantastic questions, which is you start outcome first, persona first, ask what does good look like, and backtrack from there. Now, in an ideal case scenario, who should be asking these questions? Is it the product manager? Is it the vice president? Like, who should be doing this? And once the questions are asked and you get the answers, who has the authority to enforce this through the AI development process?
Yeah. It's
Like,
such a great question
mhm,
because um, a lot of what the thinking is right now
mhm,
is everybody should be
mhm,
thinking about the outcome at the end
mhm.
and how you can reconceive the work that you do, whether at the individual level or the team level or the organizational level, to drive greater value.
Yeah.
Um, but to your point, what is the AI governance structure and framework that sits around that, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of companies right now, they've got the innovators, they've got the thought leaders who are just, they're the ones who are out there pushing the envelope. They get a new tool, they're going to get in there and start doing stuff with it.
Yeah.
But to get the most value at the company level, where are the places that have the opportunity to give you the biggest returns? That's where you want to be spending your time. So, you need a governing body that has got that view. You also need a governing body to make sure that, it's responsible use of AI, that you're managing risk. You
Mhm.
need part of that body to be identifying what tools are we providing to the organization. For whom and for what purposes, and what's kind of the intake and request process for that. You need management of all of the agents that are being created, so that, for
Yeah.
example, you might have created one that's very similar to one I want to build. I should just use yours instead of
Yeah.
building my own. So there's a whole governance structure
Yeah.
that that it's my belief companies should put in place so that you can get the greatest outcomes and impact with a really well managed approach. But that's
Yeah.
new. People have to figure out how to do that. And going
Yeah.
back to why the AI, kind of adoption is a little bit slower, it takes people to figure out how to do that, to collaborate,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
agree on who should own it, who has decision rights, around something that's brand new.
Yeah. But you make a great point, which is as enterprise kind of establish the scaffolding and framework, governance framework to have a more top-down guidance on what should be
Yes.
built and what outcomes.
Yeah.
There is friction there with all the bottoms-up AI tools every team is building inside, right? You have to somehow kind of rein
Yes.
them all in into that governance structure.
Yes. But it
Yeah.
has to be light and agile, right? You
Mm.
don't want it to be so overly burdensome that
Yeah.
that actually collapses, your ability to innovate and move with speed. So it's a careful balance to
Yeah.
put in place, and
Yeah.
we're doing that right now ourselves. And I suspect that as we learn through the process, we're going to be tweaking it, right? To make sure that we're keeping it as simple and agile as we can, but helping us drive with speed to the business impact that we want.
Yeah. Makes sense. And is there a specific AI tool or solution or capability that you wish existed that would
Mm.
make your team's life much easier?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a surprise what I say based on the conversation we've been having. It's
Hmm.
the change management part. It's
Interesting.
like, how do you
Hmm.
help a group of people come
Hmm.
to consensus
Hmm.
and create a cross-functional plan um, faster and more effectively? And people are using AI. We use it to take our meeting minutes and help us build project plans. And, you can build a stakeholder analysis. You can build all these discrete elements,
Yeah.
but it still requires, all of this, you know, alignment, one to one, leader to leader, team to team, shared understanding and prioritization. This is the hard stuff that takes the most amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's just the human condition, right? Because everybody
Hmm.
has their own reality of the world, of what's happening, based on their own lived experience.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to bring together as many different realities as you have people in that discussion, in that function. And so
Hmm.
how do we accelerate a shared understanding that will allow us to move faster? I have no idea what that looks like, but that would be awesome.
That's a great way to frame it, that that the human condition is such that we all have different realities. How do you bring a shared understanding of all of that? Because everybody's well-meaning, it's tough to say right or wrong. That's a great way to frame it. Um, and and the shape of the solution is not a tool, I assume. Is the shape of a solution a team of people who bring this together? Or what does the
Yeah.
solution look like? And do those okay,
Yeah, I think so. A tool
yeah,
is just how you're going to deliver the solution.
right.
And so it's all those other aspects. What outcome is the solution delivering? What does that
Hmm.
look like? How do you what are the pieces that need to deliver that solution, whether it's people, technology, um, you know, automation, and how are you going to organize them and
Yeah,
combine them in new workflows to accomplish that end?
yeah, makes sense. And then just a final question, Julie, which is, recently I had a friend who sent me a resume of this student graduating from a top 15 American university, undergrad computer science, 3.8, 3.84 GPA, having a really tough time getting a job. What should this person be learning or skilling themselves in? What should they be doing?
Yeah, it's a question that's on a lot of people's minds right now,
Mm,
especially college students, recent graduates, parents of college students, of which I am, and the advice from the experts um, has some common threads, but some new ones as well. And
mm,
so, last year it was focus on building those skills that really humans do best, right? The EQ becomes super important. The ability to collaborate, the ability to synthesize disparate ideas and work with others to drive a solution. There was also, look at work that AI and or robotics hasn't come to yet. So the trades continues to be a real top theme, right? And some experts are saying you're going to see a total flip-flop from, social hierarchy where all of a sudden the plumbers and the electricians are the ones who are at the top of that list.
mhm,
The one that the kind of new thread that is coming up as I've been researching is the entrepreneurial approach,
mm,
which is both thinking about what your unique individual value proposition is and how you can turn that into a business enterprise, but also just not single threading yourself. Think about
mhm,
all the places where you have expertise, where you have interest, and have multiple paths open to you. So, for example, I have peers in my network who are doing not only corporate L&D, but they're also
mhm,
yoga certified and they're teaching yoga classes, or
mhm.
so this broad portfolio of
Yeah.
capability. Not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's going to build a new business. So when we go back to your specific example, the other thing that is really, really on the rise is in the interview process. In addition to maybe taking, a lot of companies use assessments, right? They might use a personality assessment. They might use some sort of skills inference assessment. Well, that is maturing to proficiency
Mm,
proof, right? So you can't just tell me that you have experience using AI. I want you to show me. I'm going to give you, a problem to solve, and I want you to use AI to solve it. So that proficiency validation, skills validation is becoming more important for somebody who's just graduated. The more that you can give concrete examples of your work experiences, not only with AI, but with anything. Um, what have those work experiences afforded you from a skills and capabilities standpoint, and structuring your resume in that way? That's one of the things that recent graduates, if you don't have work experience, if you haven't done internships, if you didn't have part-time jobs, that's going to be difficult.
mhm. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I mean, show rather than just
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah.
No, that's very valuable. This has been fantastic, Julie. Thank you so much for taking time to do this. It's been a great conversation.